Welcome to Pattern and Craft. This video is a technique video on how to make a 2-in-1 bracelet. I'll show you how to start all 3 of these bracelets and also how to use the technique in really any bracelet you like. Before we get started, I'll show you the bracelets I've already made using this technique. Both of these use it, and you can see it can give the effect of having 2 bracelets joined in the center or simply having the color of the thread in the bracelet changing halfway through. So the first bracelet that I'm going to demo to show how to use this technique is this little polka dot guy. I thought it kind of looked like a watermelon or a kiwi fruit, depending which colors you use. So we're going to use both of these colors, and I thought that would be just kind of bright and happy for summer. And you can see the pattern below. It's the same pattern for both sides of the bracelet. We're just going to switch out the colors. So you're going to cut 2 of the pink string and 2 of the green, 1 of the black, and then you're going to cut 2 strings for the side. They can be shorter because they're for the straight edges technique. I chose black. You can use any color you want really, but I wanted there to be an even amount of strings so that I could do really cool looking twisted ties like this. So that's why I used black for my holding thread on the sides. So the way you start is to take your colored strings, the ones that are going to be changing color, and you want to kind of untwist the thread and split it apart into 3 and 3. Embroidery floss is usually 6 strands, so you want to split them evenly into 3 and 3, and the way you do it is just like slowly and carefully just untwist and then pull them apart. This can be a little bit tedious and annoying, but you know, just be careful, go slow, and try not to let it get tangled as you go, because it can kind of twist back on itself. So just keep them separated and pull apart your entire string. So once you've pulled apart your string, you had 2 and 2 of the colors, and now that they've been split apart, you should have 4 and 4. But we only need 3 for this pattern, so remove 1 of each, and you can use that for something else in a different project. So next we're going to take 1 pink and 1 green and kind of loop them over each other and then fold them back on each other to make a joined thread. So now we kind of have one thread again that's half pink and half green. So do that for all 3, and then we can get going with the bracelet. So once we have all of our strings prepared, we want to stick them down to the tape. I just folded the edges under and have the sticky side up. This is the best way I've found to tape the strings. I've also folded the black strings in half so that I pretty much know where the center of them are, because we want to start sticking our string onto the tape and we want the centers all to align along the bottom edge. It's pretty easy to see where the joined threads have the centers because that's where the color changes. So just align those as close as you can in the order of your pattern. So you'll want to just stick those down. And I forgot to mention earlier, make sure the looped threads, the ends are lined as well. So, you know, you don't want one edge of the folded string longer than the other. So keep on sticking down your strings as close as possible and as evenly across as possible, aligned with the bottom of your tape. I'm using painter's tape here, which I feel like is the best as far as it's not too sticky, but it's sticky enough to be holding everything nice and secure. Okay, so we have everything aligned, and now I'm just going to put another piece of tape on top to kind of secure everything, sandwich all the threads in there. And you want to kind of have it just above where the thread join is. And then you can tape it down with a little more tape, to keep it more secure, like this. And then we can go ahead and start knotting from here. So basically you're just going to want to follow the pattern, and so we're going to start with the left string, well, 1 string over, because our far left string is our straight edges string. So we never knot with it, we just knot onto it. So we're gonna do a backward forward knot, and the tricky part is just to make sure that the knot goes all the way up to but not past where the thread join is. So you wanna just get right up to that point and make your knot there. So, and then you wanna make sure the knot is the color of the string you're using. So if you go a little too far past the join, it will turn to the other color. So make sure that it's the right color when you make the knot and it's close to where the thread changes color. So I went ahead and skipped over to the other side where I'm doing forward backward knots to do the other string. And then in the center, we're gonna go ahead and just do a forward knot because that's what the pattern shows. So I'm assuming that we already know how to follow patterns. This is more of a technique video showing how to start the bracelet. So I'm just gonna kind of do the first or second row here, and you can go ahead and follow the pattern to finish it up. I'm actually not very great at knotting well on a flat surface, so I will take it off site to finish up the knotting, which I've done here. And I've only done a little bit more just for demonstration purposes, and that's enough to keep the strings all secure. So now you can rip your tape off and free your strings. They're nice and, they're knotted and they're not going to go anywhere. And you do want to, at this point, kind of brush out your strings and make sure the fibers are all aligned again, because the tape can kind of make them fuzzy and pull them apart. So just take a second to kind of flatten out your string again so that it's, it's nice and smooth again. Otherwise, your knots will be a little bigger from it being too fuzzy. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and flip our bracelet over. So the part we just knotted is up and the strings that were at the top are now at the bottom. And we're gonna go ahead and just continue on with our pattern. It's fairly simple. The hard part is joining the threads and starting the bracelet, but once you get to this point, it's pretty much the same as finishing up a regular bracelet. And this pattern happens to pretty much be, it's the same way up and down, so it doesn't really matter. But if you had a one-way pattern, you'd probably want to flip it over so it would be easier to read as you're going the other direction. So I'm just gonna do a few knots here just to show that you're basically just doing it normally. You can just do the normal tightness, normal tension, and start knotting your pattern. So I actually just wanted to show you this real quick. Sorry the video is a little blurry. I had to kind of zoom in, and I'm, knotting it the way I normally do, which is taped to my knee. But I figured out a good way to segment knot this pattern. So if you're interested in that, you'll want to follow the pattern to a diagonal sort of shape. I do this a lot. I knot on the diagonal often, or on a V shape depending on the pattern. So once you've got it to a diagonal, you're gonna, this is a really easy, simple way to do it on diagonal rows. So you're gonna take your first color thread and do a backward forward knot onto your straight edge string. Then you're going to take your first black thread, which is your seed color, and do a backward forward knot onto the colored string there. And then you're going to take the next color string and do a backward knot onto the black string. And then you're going to do your second seed, which is a forward and a backward knot onto the color string with the black. And then you're going to do a forward backward knot with that colored string onto your side string to finish off the diagonal row. So that's step one. And then the next row, diagonal row, you're gonna just do a backward forward knot onto your holding string for your straight edges, like this. And then you're gonna just go ahead and do a whole row of 4 knots, so I guess it would be 3. So forward knot again, and then another forward knot, and then you're like fixing the bracelet. Okay, another forward knot, and then a forward backward knot onto the holding string on the right for your straight edges. And that's it. You can just keep repeating that, those 2 diagonal rows for the whole rest of the bracelet. And then this is how it looks when it's all finished up. I think it turned out pretty cute. So that's how you make that bracelet, and that's how you do the 2 bracelets in 1 technique. Next, I'm going to show you the same technique, but a little different, using this bracelet, which is just a striped bracelet, candy stripe, but do a diagonal join instead of the straight across join. I've given you the patterns for this bracelet, and it's the same pattern, just different colors. We're going to switch out all of the string colors in this one, so use the same pattern, but switch out all 4 colors. So for this bracelet, I'm choosing to use white and navy for 1/2, and pink and taupe for the other half, and pink for my holding strings on the sides. You can choose any colors that you like, but that's what I'm choosing, and you're going to want 1 each of each color, and then you're going to go ahead and split all of those apart. So now take those split pieces and then join them up this way, and then take your pink strings or whatever color you're using for your side strings and fold them in half so you can see where the middle is. Now we're gonna put it on our tape again, but remember this is gonna be a diagonal join. So instead of straight across, we're gonna take our tape and we're gonna just turn it 45 degrees and restick it down. And then now we're ready to start our bracelet. So you're going to take your side strings and add those first. I think the pink's actually really pretty here. I should probably have done an alternate of pink and peach for my stripe, but that's okay. Every time I do a bracelet, it kind of gives me an idea for a new one. All right, so start lining up your strings, and you're going to do alternating colors, and you're going to just make sure that that join or the center of the string is right along the edge of the bottom of your tape, and the strings are right up next to each other as close as possible. That's all it really takes. It's just a little finicky, so make adjustments if you have to. And get your strings all lined up and in the proper order, and don't forget your last string on this side there for straight edges. I always do straight edges. Sorry if this is confusing to anybody, but I just think it makes the bracelet look so much better, so I use it for pretty much everything I do now. All right, so now we're ready, and we're going to just basically make forward knots diagonally. Oh, well, first we're going to do our backward forward knot onto our side string for the straight edge. So just do that first, and again we're going to just go straight up to the join but not past it. So that's just, it's all in where you put the knot. So just make sure you're careful about where you're tying, and tie your knot right up to that join point but not past it. So just do forward knots all the way along. You might also notice I'm not using very many threads in these patterns. I'm not doing like 20 strings. I've got, I think, 4 pattern strings and 2 side strings for my straight edges. So the reason is that whole process of splitting apart the string is kind of annoying. So, and I actually really like these little tiny dainty kind of bracelets that I've been really into these lately. So they kind of go together hand in hand. So here we go. We've got all of our forward knots, and now we're doing our forward backward knot onto our side string there. And that's all you basically do. Just keep going on with the candy stripe. So I've done a few more rows here, and it's time to free our strings again. So rip off your tape, and don't forget to flatten out your strings, or kind of comb them, make them all flat and pretty again. And then you might need to tighten some of your knots depending if that, pulled them. I think mine needed a little bit of tightening, so go for that. And then all you really need to do is flip your work over, and then we're gonna tape it down again, and then just go ahead and start knotting in the other direction. So you're gonna just do the same pattern again, do a basic candy stripe with the forward backward knots and backward forward knots for your side strings for your straight edges, and that's it. So you can see how it's going to be pretty much like making a normal bracelet at this point, just now your colors are completely changed because we use that technique in the middle to swap out the color. And there's no tails to hide or anything like that because of the way we did it with the threads folding into each other, and it makes a nice clean way to switch the colors. So I like using this technique a lot, and it's possible to change colors in a bracelet as well when you've already started making the bracelet from the other side, but I just think like starting from the middle like this is really a pretty cool technique, so I thought I'd share it with everyone. So I've gone ahead and got my first row there, just doing forward knots, except for on the edges I'm obviously doing backward forward and then forward backward, and then I'm just going to continue on with my pattern from there. So here's our final product. We've got our beautiful bracelet, and it looks pretty cool, I think, and it's, really interesting how it changes from one complete color scheme to another. So now we're moving on to the last bracelet, and this one's really interesting because the join will be a V-shaped join, and I thought the perfect pattern to do that with would be a basic chevron bracelet. You can see the pattern is basically the same pattern, except for one is alternating stripe and the other is a little bit of a rainbow ombre. So you can obviously use any colors you prefer. I'm gonna do this sort of pastel rainbow for the ombre, and then for the stripe I'm gonna do black and dark gray. So you need one of each for the rainbow and two of each for the stripe, and then you're gonna need whatever color you want for your holding strings. You won't really see it in the pattern, but you'll see it in the ties. So for this one, you wanna turn your tape at a 45-degree angle so that it creates the V shape there at the bottom. That's gonna be the shape of our join, so that's pretty convenient. So go ahead and start adding your strings. You're gonna wanna start from the center out, and then you're gonna want to make sure you're aligning them at the bottom edge of the tape, and then make sure that the strings again are as close as possible to each other and all lined up along that diagonal. So I'm just taking my strings in rainbow order and then in stripe order. So you'll want to be careful when you're putting your strings together that you have the right string attached to the right one, so that you get the pattern that you want on both sides, And also just real careful here to get them all stuck down. It's pretty easy though, because you can see where the center is and you see where the edge of the tape is, so you just kind of line it all up. It's actually not that hard a technique. The hardest part really is just splitting apart the string, I find anyway, because it can get tangly and it's tedious, but I think it's worth it because the effect is really cool when you're, finished with the bracelet. So it's worth a little time and effort, I think. So now we're just putting our side strings. I forgot to fold mine, so I'm finding the centers right now and then putting that center aligned with the joins of my little strings there. And now we're ready to start our bracelet, and everything's in the right order and everything, so that's great. So I'm just gonna secure my strings now. I actually really like doing this because the tape's on both sides and the strings sandwiched between there, so it's pretty secure. You can still move it around if you need to, like by pulling the strings. Pretty much it's, really good in there. So go ahead and start with the backward forward. Oop, I went a little too far past. You definitely just wanna do up to the join point and no further. So backward forward for the first, and then go ahead and do forward knots in a diagonal fashion all the way down. This is pretty much how you do any chevron bracelet. So no real surprise here, just it's all about being careful about where you put your knot and lining up your strings properly. I did have a little issue where once I started knotting, my threads are a little too far apart, and I think I edited it out, but yeah, I had to kind of fudge it a little bit and kind of untape it and retape it. But basically, yeah, you're gonna just have to, yeah, see there where I took a little edit there. But yeah, I just keep on going with your forward knots, and then on the other side, you're gonna do forward backward to start onto your side string, and then you're gonna do backward knots all along this row with your same first color there. You're just completing the V shape of your chevron. Be careful, like to not go past the join point. That's the tricky part as well of these bracelets. So, but as long as you can get that part right, it's not too hard. I don't know. So I'm having a little difficulty here. I should have put my strings a little closer together. So live and learn, learn from me so that you can have a little better luck. Okay, another edit there. And then, yeah, now I'm bringing the center strings together. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and do a fast forward on the rest of this. I'm just finishing a few more rows of each of the colors. Just your basic chevron pattern, nothing crazy. But yeah, you can see how the pattern's developing as you follow along. I guess this would be considered segment knotting as well, because they're doing it on the diagonal rather than row by row of the pattern. So I hope that's not too confusing to anyone, but at this point I'm pretty sure most people know how to do a chevron. If not, this is probably a little too advanced of a technique for beginners, but I hope it's still interesting to watch. So yeah, we're gonna just finish up our chevron and do a few rows so that all the threads are nice and secure before I take the tape off and then show you the other side. So now that we're done with that, I have taken my tape off. I've combed out my strings so they're all nice and smooth again. I flipped over my work, and now it's time to start knotting our chevron from the other direction. So this time, because we flipped over the bracelet, we're going to be knotting from the center out instead of from the outside in. But it's basically the same thing. We're going to be doing, I started in the middle and I'm going to the right here. You can go in any order you like, but basically you're going to do all of your knots in a row to the right, and then all of your knots in a row to the left, remembering to do the forward backward or backward forward on the side string there as well. And that's basically it. You just keep on going with the pattern. So here we have the finished bracelet now, and I think it looks really cool. So it's a little bit more work because it's an 8-string pattern plus the side strings, so it's definitely more work splitting all of those strings and rejoining them, but I don't know, I think the payoff's really nice. It looks really cool, and it's a really good way to learn the technique. All right, we made it. It's the end of the video. Here's all 3 of the bracelets together, showing the same technique, just 3 different ways of the 2-in-1 bracelet. And then here's the 2 that I made prior when I was kind of figuring out the technique. I'll definitely put the patterns for those next, and now that you know how to use the technique, you can make those as well if you'd like. It's kind of interesting how they all turned out differently here with the diagonal technique, and the chevron technique's really neat. I think that looks great. I actually wish I had used it on this bracelet, but I didn't actually know it yet. I was still figuring out how to do this. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to do 2 bracelets in one, and I hope you use this technique. So please come back for more tutorial videos. Thanks again.